And welcome back, everybody, to another edition of the always pressing PGA DFS podcast, your 2018 RBC Heritage preview. Check out the podcast on Twitter at alwayspressdfs and at your local listening locations, iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Spreaker, the works. Before we get started, let me introduce my co-host. As always, find him on Twitter at BPSnow11. Bucks, how we doing, man?
Doing great, buddy. Just traveling for work and still recovering from Masters Week, so it's all good.
Yeah, you had some fun there. We'll get into that in a minute. After I introduce our other co-host, find him on Twitter at DFS Golf Gods. Jesse, how we doing, man?
I'm okay. I'm tired. It was a long weekend, a lot of teams to build all weekend long because we got a new stupid ass slate on DraftKings. But I feel like I'm hungover today, so if I'm sluggish, I apologize.
And that's coming from a guy that doesn't drink anymore, folks. Yeah. So that's telling you something right there. Before we get into the Masters, actually, I meant to put this on the outline. I forgot. What was your take on that day-to-day different things? I didn't play it at all, so start with you, Jesse, and then Bucks. If you got any opinion on it, let us know.
Yeah, so I mean, if the weekend slate is like a turbo, because I don't know if you remember, but basically a year ago at the Masters, we got weekend slate, and we talked about it, Bubba. I mean, I think on a pod afterwards, and I said it was like a turbo for like, a 2-game slate or something like that on baseball or basketball. If that's a turbo, then this is like just seriously going to the casino and just putting $5 bills into a slot machine and pulling the trigger. I mean, that's the best thing I can, unless you're max entering this and just trying to get as many different, it's just, I don't know. I personally like the weekend golf better. But I just, and it's also just, for us golf guys, we're not used to making a lineup 4 nights a week. It's a grind. So, if props to you baseball, basketball guys out there, it's a grind, man.
Yeah. Well, did you dabble at all, Bucks?
No. I looked into it, but I just couldn't. I mean, it's not like there are some applications out there, some lineup building tools that are decent for golf, but it's not like baseball, basketball, football, where you have some really sophisticated tools to build these mass lineups.
Yeah.
And it's a different theory, in my opinion. So it's not easy to build 150 lineups, three out of 4 nights or something like that. And so I didn't do it, but I didn't understand. I was going to dabble in it, but I didn't understand why they did some of the scoring rules they had. So I stayed away from it just because I wasn't a fan.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's one of those I didn't touch at all. I want to see more of that because even when it comes to baseball and basketball, when it gets to just a couple game slates, I stay away. I want nothing to do with that kind of stuff. I like the more longevity of an event type deal, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Let's talk Masters. And yeah, it was something special. If you've been living under a rock and you still listen to this podcast and you don't know who won, well, Patrick Reed did. And he was very, very impressive. He didn't have to do much except play just par golf on Sunday, and that's what you want to do as a champion. Overall, it was just great. Bucks, what was your take on Big Pat finally taking one down?
I mean, I'm personally a fan of Patrick Reed, and I, as far as golf goes, I try to take a lot of the personal stuff out of it. I mean, everybody has life issues. Like, everybody's dealing with something. Everybody has some bullshit family issue they're dealing with. And so why would I bash on Patrick Reed just because he has some family issues? It's the same people, though, that are the biggest Tiger fans in the world, and he dealt with some of the biggest family issues we could possibly imagine. The fact of the matter is, Patrick Reed, if you weren't a fan of Patrick Reed after the last Ryder Cup, you're not a golf fan because
you're not American.
He dominated, and it was incredible. And he did the same thing here at the Masters. Every time you thought he was kind of letting the door open, he slammed that son of a bitch. I mean, that putt on 12 when you kind of thought Spieth was making a run, I mean, that was just insane. So I am a huge fan of really good golf, and he played really good golf and deserved to win that event.
Yep, I agree. Jesse, what are your thoughts on the weekend?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's we all have a past, and so I typically don't judge anybody by that. My issue always with Patrick Reed is he's just so hard to predict, right?
Yeah.
So like that's why I can't become a fan of him because a lot of what I do, I become a fan of guys based on how they play in my DFS
your DraftKings team.
how consistent they are. That's really. I love golf, obviously, and I would watch it either way. But he's so hard to predict. I mean, that's what I just can't. I can't jump on board for that. But I mean, he played the golf tournament that he needed to play. I think he had 2-3 putts all week. Jordan had 4 and Ricky had 3. And that ended up being the difference between the 3 of them. And that's what you got to do in a major tournament is you got to putt well. And again, it's something it's hard as hell to predict who's going to have the lightning putter coming in. But, it just adds to the greatest year that we could possibly have in golf because who saw him coming and winning the Masters? Not many people. So, it's another wrench, man. I mean, this is just going to get better and better all year.
Yeah, it's another, big time name winning another event, and it's not like the same dude every year. Not that I didn't like Dustin winning every event early on or whatever, but it's just another group of guys dominating things. I want your guys' thoughts on this. Nike not allowing Pat to wear his red and other guys to wear their normal colors on Sunday because Tiger was wearing red, I think is the most shit thing I have ever seen. Thoughts?
I mean, is that really what it was? Was Nike said since Tiger's playing? Because I thought it was they're trying to sell these Azalea type clothes, Masters type clothes, because all those guys who were wearing the Nikes, they had the Nike shoes on with the little flowers. So I thought it was just a push from them. I didn't hear anything about Tiger. Is that the real reason?
That's what I read yesterday morning.
Yeah, I mean, if that is the real reason, then that's bullshit. But I can't imagine Patrick Reed deciding not to wear red because Nike told him so. Like, I would say he would give him the middle finger before he'd comply to that rule. But who knows how much he's getting paid? So I didn't care one way or another. I was surprised to see him in the pink.
Yeah.
Whatever. He'll wear pink on Sundays for the rest of his life.
I would.
Hell yeah.
I mean, he doesn't have an equipment deal. He's only got the clothing deal with Nike. So, I mean, I don't know if that played anything into it or not. But yeah, I fully expect him to wear red. But either way, or some form of red instead of pink. I guess it had to do with it's like I thought it had to do with the azaleas and them trying to incorporate that shit into the Masters, but.
It probably did, but who knows?
So overall, an insane weekend. You had Spieth coming out on the opening round, just blitzing the field in the afternoon. Then he falls back. Everybody's moving up and down. Reed does his thing and kind of holds on to the lead after a while. The Saturday, just where he had a couple eagles and some other big rounds, and other guys making moves. And on Sunday, you have Spieth go nuts. You have Fowler go nuts. So many guys played great. What's your overall take on the weekend besides just the simple facts it was an amazing weekend of golf?
Yeah, I think it was just a really great weekend to watch golf. I mean, starting with Tuesday coverage and Tiger just balling out on Tuesday, and then you have Wednesday where Finau seemingly broke his ankle and still played 4 amazing rounds of golf.
Did you guys see the pictures of that?
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it is ridiculous. And then you have Jack's grandson making a hole-in-one, and then Sergio dumping 5 balls into the water, and then Leishman folding like a lawn chair, and Spieth going bananas on Sunday. I mean, Ricky going bananas. It was just incredible golf. And it's not like one of those events where you were just holding on for dear life. Like, Patrick Reed had to win that golf tournament. He wasn't just holding on. He had to win it. And so as far as golf goes, it was phenomenal. It was awesome. And then Charlie Hoffman making a hole-in-one was just insane. So
yeah, it was pretty wild. What about you, Jesse?
Yeah, it started crazy with that whole deal on Wednesday at the par 3 contest. I actually had ran out during that time when all of this stuff happened. So, but it was, it started really, really epically, and Sunday didn't disappoint. I didn't expect it to be that exciting. I thought Patrick just played such solid golf. I thought that he would win going into Sunday. But I didn't expect McIlroy to play as shitty as he did. But the leaderboard was just completely loaded with big names. Ricky's the bridesmaid again. And Spieth would have been tied for second if he didn't bogey the last hole, and he was shot 63 on Sunday. I mean, it's crazy. And then Spieth hit that shot into 13. I don't know if you guys remember, out of the pine straw.
Yeah.
And hit it to about 10, 15 feet.
Yep.
And just barely missed the putt. So it was Augusta, it was the Masters, and it lived up to being the greatest golf tournament that there is, in my opinion.
And it's just crazy because we're going to see this group. We finished our golf yesterday. There's a Masters group I'm at, and we're all watching the last 10 holes or whatever. And we're sitting there going, you know what? We get to watch this group of golfers for the next 10 to 15 years do this at Augusta. Yeah. It's going to be freaking wild to see it happen. Let's talk about Ricky before we talk about the elephant in the room that is Tiger. He did finish second this year, but to me, this felt different than his other bridesmaids for the fact he didn't fall apart. He did really well. His Sunday was amazing. He birdied 18. His post game was great when he talked about he's ready to win. And I don't know if you guys saw the quote or heard the quote, but when he said that was the most important putt he's made in a long time because it didn't let Spieth have the solo second to brag about. He flat out said that, which I absolutely love, and that just shows why this is so fun with this group of guys that they care about. Because they don't care about the money; they got more money than they know what to do with. The fact that he doesn't want his buddy because he can hold that one against him, when they're in their trip in the Bahamas and go, "Hey, remember when we tied for second at the Masters?" Exactly. It's going to be that much better. So, what the question is though is, when's Ricky going to get his? Because it's got to come soon. He's already got the players, but when's the big one coming for Ricky? And if he doesn't get it next, who do you think the next first timer is? Because Reed obviously first timer.
Yeah, for me, I think it literally can come anytime for Ricky. I think earlier this year, and we've talked about it here on the pod, I personally wasn't a fan of Ricky at the Masters because he has been struggling. He's still playing good golf, but up to his standards, he was struggling. So it was really great to see him kind of break through and start playing that really, really good golf again. And with knowing that, I think that he is in contention for every major. I think that the U.S. Open, I think the British Open suit his game a bit more, especially the British if the conditions get bad. So I really like him. Outside of him, though, there are so many guys that could step up and win at any moment, which is why golf is so good right now. I was reading on the airplane yesterday that the average tour player, I think average age is 30. Top 50 in the world, average age is 30.
I believe it.
And in 1995 or something like that, it was 40. And so we've just seen this massive increase of good young talent. For me, I could see players like Patrick Cantlay or Cam Smith stepping up. But you still have that crop like Ricky that are still out there banging on the door seemingly every major. So if not Ricky, maybe Cantlay just because of the sheer talent. But I still like Ricky.
No, and before I get to Jesse here, something you said there makes the most sense is there's so many good options. There's that many guys you would not be shocked. You mentioned all those 40-year-olds. You go to a tournament, okay, it's going to be one of these 3 or 4 guys. Now it's a crapshoot, and that's what made it fun this weekend. Jesse, what's your take on that one, the Fowler?
Yeah, one guy you guys didn't mention was Rahm.
Yeah.
He shot 65, 69 on the weekend. after kind of a start.
Real quick. Did you guys see the Rahm thing where he freaking acts like he hit the worst shot on the planet, slams his club down, and he hits the green and it rolls towards the pin?
Yeah.
I thought he hit
that was a great Hideki moment, yes, for him. Yes, that was. He's got a lot of growing up to do still.
It's crazy.
But the talent level is so incredible with him.
Yeah.
It'll happen. So him, Paul Casey made a run Sunday.
Yeah.
Big run.
Fleetwood was there. He didn't play that well. He just had that one good round on Sunday. But, I mean, he's going to win one as well. And then Hideki, he top 20s again. It's just amazing. For Fowler, though, I mean, he's got to be coming from behind, or he's just got to completely change his mindset whenever he's leading. That's it, because he played outstanding golf, 65, 67 on the weekend, and he's got to be coming from behind, or, like I said, just completely rethink how he's playing with the lead, because he'll be in the lead again.
Yeah, definitely. Last thing we'll talk about here, and then we'll move on from an amazing weekend in Augusta. Tiger Woods, roller coaster of a weekend is the way I'll describe it. It was great seeing him out there, sneaks in on the cut line, has a great Sunday to kind of get to the middle of the pack or so, but it wasn't quite the Tiger weekend many expected. Bucks, what are your takes on Tiger?
Yeah, I mean, I think Tiger hit the ball well for the most part. He got himself in trouble a few times, which is obviously costly. But to be honest, he was hitting his irons really well, but he just didn't make anything. His putter was cold, I feel, all weekend. And when you got – I mean, he was not in contention. But he was still at a point where he was hitting the ball well enough to be in contention. The difference was you had guys like Spieth and Ricky and Patrick, Rahm even. They were making – when we talk about the Masters, and we talked about it last week, you have to take advantage of the opportunities you get at Augusta. Those guys took advantage of their opportunities better than anybody, obviously. But you look at Reed and Spieth in particular, and they made everything, man. I mean, it was insane, and Tiger didn't make anything. So I think his game is there. He hit his driver better. He hit his irons better. But he just didn't make anything worthwhile to give it a good run.
Yeah, what about you, Jesse?
Yeah, I think the expectations were just too high for him. I mean, he played pretty well, decently well, but not at a venue like, I mean, we haven't seen him in Augusta in, 2 years? So, the whole pressure of a major going back to Augusta, that stuff you got to get used to again, even for Tiger. He's not the same guy he was, 2012, even before that. So it's just going to be a work in progress for him.
Yeah, no doubt about it. One last thing. I'll ask it since you went, and when Jesse did it last year. Bucks, what was it like going to the Masters?
I mean, it's incredible. I mean, it's as a golf fan, you're there kind of witnessing all of these locations. You've seen all of these incredible shots. But not only that, Augusta is the most well-kept golf course on the planet, number one. Number two, they run it incredibly well. They are so efficient with everything they do. It's just a really enjoyable event. But not only that, then you get on the course, you're not allowed to have your cell phone. And so you're completely disconnected with the world, and so is everybody around you. And you're literally watching golf, looking around, looking at the courses, you're talking to people, you're standing next to people and sitting next to people in these chairs, and you're having conversations with people that you're likely just looking at your DK score at any other golf tournament. And so it's just a phenomenal place. But then seeing all of these players come through hitting these incredible shots, people don't understand how difficult Augusta really is. Patrick Reed and that whole crew make it look like a cakewalk, and it's not. You have holes like number 7, for example, where if you miss, your certain portion of the green by more than a couple feet, you're going to have like a 30-foot putt. Like there's no, like when you have a center cut pin on number 7, if you miss it 5 feet left or 5 feet right, you're screwed. And so it's such a precise golf course. You just don't get a feel for that really on TV until you're there live. It is well worth it. So it was awesome, man.
And it's hilly as all get out too.
Oh yeah, it is a walk and a half, man.
It
That
sucks
course,
walking that golf course.
Think about like the hilliest course you've ever played is probably like that. It's crazy.
It's nuts.
Nice. Well, mine was a Pete Dye course. We'll talk about a Pete Dye course here in a little bit. But Jesse, why don't you do a little fan share Masters recap for us before we get into the RBC?
Yeah, so Reed came in at 134 points overall, which was about 25 more than second place Ricky, and he was only about 9% owned in the Millie Maker. He was nowhere on my radar. I mean, as far as like playing him heavily, I did add a couple of them just because he fit in the Millie, but it didn't matter. And then of the top 10 in DK points, 6 were top 25 in their the tags on fan share. Major Balm of the top 10 in tags was Sergio, who we all watched collapse on 15. Still can't believe he did that. Hit 5 balls in the water. Took a 13, went from 1 over to like 1,000 over. Another chalk bomb was DeChambeau. Is at 16% on. He did make the cut. Didn't Chappell miss the cut? Did Chappell miss the cut or did he make it?
I believe so, yeah.
He missed it. He missed
it.
So.
Yeah, and then Charlie Hoffman, he showed through again. He was on there Logan's list of pivots, and he's has had a good course history coming in, but not really great form. I ended up finishing 6th in DK points. The perfect lineup was Reed, Fowler, Spieth, Watson, Cam Smith, and Stinson. And the Millie Maker lineup had all those guys except for Cam Smith. Instead, they had Henley. So just barely off. But like we talk about all the time, you got to have the perfect lineup or almost the perfect lineup to win the $1 million, which apparently a guy got married this weekend and won $1 million.
Wow, what a lucky lady.
I mean, I'm guessing they got married on Saturday, so there was no prenup.
Yeah, poor bastard. Like I've always thought about that, honestly. Like if I ever hit the nuts, like do I go and get divorced first, or how do I do this before I tell her it happened?
I hope your wife isn't listening, man.
I'm joking, half joking. This guy also apparently that won the Millie, he only put 20 entries in, so you don't have to max enter it, as many people think you have to. He had 45% Sergio exposure, so it just takes one lineup. You can, it's all it takes. Pretty crazy stuff there, but we have to move on, unfortunately, from the Masters. I think we could pretty much talk about it for a long time. Let's go to the RBC Heritage preview down there in South Carolina. Jesse, why don't you give us some past event history before we get the course preview?
Yeah, so obviously we're playing in South Carolina, like you just said, and I didn't have it pulled up, so give me just a second here. Last year, Wesley Bryan was the winner. First-time winner on the PGA Tour. He shot 13 under and beat Luke Donald. Now, remember Luke Donald's name. Year before that, Brandon Grace was the winner at -9. He beat Luke Donald and Russell Knowles.
I'm sensing a theme.
2015, Jim Furyk was your winner over Kevin Kisner in a playoff. Kuchar, 2014 winner by 1 shot over Luke Donald. So he's only played – Luke Donald's played second here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times in the last, since 2009. So pretty incredible.
Yeah, that doesn't suck for sure. Bucks, give us a course preview of this Pete Dye course.
Yeah, so this is obviously this is Harbortown, so one of the most iconic courses they play all year. It is a Pete Dye with a little bit of Jack Nicklaus touch up in there. 7,100 yards, par 71. Pretty standard stuff. Jesse already went through kind of the cut line and winning score. What you should know, and this is pretty typical of Pete Dye. We've already talked about Pete Dye this year. But with Pete Dye, you have very visually intimidating shots, not only into the greens, but off the tee. This course is a little bit different because it is very, very tight. It's demanding off the tee. The greens are very, very small. It requires you to shape the ball off the tee and into the greens to hit certain pin locations. It is honestly truly a ball striker's golf course, not a course you're going to overpower. And like Jesse said, anytime Luke Donald's a perennial contender, the distance stats kind of just go out the window.
Yes.
So I think overall as a course, it starts right out of the gate. One of the tightest tee shots on the course is hole 1. You have to position yourself well off the tee. You can't just hitting a fairway isn't good enough here. You have to put it in certain places off the tee, certain sides of the fairway to give yourself a shot at these greens. Even if you hit the fairway on a lot of these holes, you're going to be blocked out by trees. Incredibly tree lined until you get to like 17. Then you have a couple seaside type holes. As far as a hole breakdown, you do have 4 par 3s that average 190 yards. All of those par 3s, you're obviously hitting a mid to a long iron, and depending on the player. There are 11 par 4s. They average 427 yards. You have 7 holes, though, under 450 yards that they're going to be hitting 9 iron or less. And then you have 4 holes over 450 where they're typically going to be hitting an 8, 7, 6 iron, again, depending on the player, but typically averaging around 150 yards into those par 4s. The par 5s, there are 3 par 5s. They average 547 yards. 2 of the 3 are reachable by pretty much the entire field. The 15th, though, is 588 yards. Only the longest of guys are going to get there. The first 2 par 5s, though, they yield birdies at a 46% clip. So people light these par 5s up on the front 9. They're both on the front 9. That 15th, though, that yields birdies at a 26% clip. So still high, but not nearly as high as those easy par 5s in the front. So and again, Jesse will touch on this in a minute, while it is very, very important to have guys positioning themselves well around here, you still have to be conscious of how many birdies are giving up on these par 5s.
Yeah, it definitely seems like there are some points, there are some strokes to be made out there, but scrambling does come into play, putting, the works, Pete Dye specialties. The weather that we're looking at right now, from what I saw, got some rain early in the week, Monday, Tuesday-ish, but for the tournament-wise, not bad. Should be in the 70s, gentle wind, maybe up to 10, 15 and some days on the weekend, but overall not too bad, and we should hopefully avoid weather. Sunday, you have a chance of rain, but hopefully it all stays away. We have a nice tournament there in Harbor Town, as you were talking about. Jesse, what are some of the key stats you're looking for?
Yeah, it's accuracy this week. So off the tee, into the green. So big heavyweight on greens and regulation. Scrambling, the greens are, like Bucks just said, the greens are small here. So you're not going to hit them all, obviously. And one thing about Pete Dye is he's an asshole around the green. So if you miss, more than likely you're down into some kind of collection area and you have to make a not so straightforward up and down. So guys who are doing well around the green, I think, is important. And then par 5 scoring is important, in my opinion, as well. And then course history, man. Course history matters this week. Luke Donald being number 1 course history cover man.
Yes, definitely. What about you, Bucks?
Yeah, so I'll echo quite a bit of what Jesse said, but I will say with these greens being so small, I am focused less on like strokes gained approach, the strokes gained stats, that kind of thing. I'm really focused on accuracy and then proximity. So when you're coming into the greens, hitting a green is one thing, but having the guys that are elite when it comes to hitting it close is really, really important here. And then, like Jesse said, mixing those stats with having really strong short games is important because, like he said, Pete Dye is really tough when you come into these greens and miss them. You're going to have some awkward lies, tough little pitch shots, and then there's obviously a ton of sand around these holes. So having solid proximity from 100 yards to 200 yards, and I'm weighting kind of that 125 to 175 range higher than the rest. But then having your short game stats and then strokes gained putting is the last category that I'm really focused on.
Yeah, I like that. I'm looking at accuracy, kind of strokes gained around the green, putting, and as normal, I'm a big course history, recent form guy. That's me to a T. I could probably not tell you what I'm looking at every week, and you'll know what I'm looking at. With that being said, let me get a little fan share RBC info for you. Coming into this, the last for the guys in this field, top 10 in the last 10 events, DraftKings-wise, with tag counts. There's 6 golfers outside the top 25 in tags that are top 10 this week in DraftKings scoring. It goes DJ, 1, Casey. Ian Poulter is third in scoring. He's been 64th on average in tags, so keep that in mind. Emiliano Grillo, he's been 34th in tags. You got Luke List, Mark Leishman, who's been 53rd in tags. Here's one that might get your attention. Paul Dunn is averaging 77.5 DraftKings points per event, and he's 115th in tags. Sean O'Hare, he's averaging 76.5 points at 89 tags. And Brian Harmon and Kevin Tway. He hasn't been playing the greatest golf. He's averaging almost 75 DraftKings points, 147th most tagged guy. So kind of a couple of those kind of stand out. And we've seen, for the most part, those somehow come into play come Sunday. When you're looking at last year here at Harbor Town, obviously Wes Bryant, he was 9th in tagged. He had the most points. Luke Donald, 2nd. You had Ollie, who was 73rd in tags, had 97 DraftKings points. You had Dirt McGirt. Sam Saunders was the 95th most tagged guy, had 93 DraftKings points. You had Cantlay, Brian Gay, Bud Cauley was 73rd. Brian Harmon, and then Duffner was 3rd most tagged. He was the 10th at 87 points. So basically what you're getting out of this is there's a lot of guys that aren't, your most popular guys. When we get to the pricing here coming up, especially in that 7K range, you're going to see a lot of names that you wouldn't be shocked if they're top 10 and top 15 come into the week. Last thing is, before we get into the winners and all that good stuff and our picks, some stats I did see: 28 of the last 35 winners at Harbor Town, they played the Masters the week before. But 3 of the last 5 winners missed the cut at Augusta. So take that for however you wish. It's an interesting philosophy. I saw a bunch of different things thrown around today. Some made me chuckle. That one to me was worth keeping because at least the ones that played the weekend before, there's a bigger sample there to kind of pay attention to.
Interesting. All right, cool.
Yeah. Let's get into the DraftKings pricing. We'll start in the 10K and above range. We got 4 golfers. You got Dustin Johnson. Since he's sponsored by RBC, he's making his appearance. He's 0 for 2 in cuts here. He's 12,000. Paul Casey, Kuchar at 10.8, and Leishman at 10.3. Bucks, who you got up top?
Yeah, I mean, again, 4 freaking guys up here. I obviously love Paul Casey. He's been playing well. He pops on my model. He is solid as far as proximity goes, as far as putting goes, birdies, DK points. So I personally like Paul Casey up here. I don't like Dustin Johnson. I'm looking at the last 24 rounds and of all courses, and he is not from proximity from 100 to 150. He's not inside the top 100. And he's outside the top 100 fairways gained. So that's a guy that I am avoiding like the plague. So Paul Casey's up here for me. That's about it.
What about you, Jesse?
Yeah, obviously, I mean, Paul Casey is one. Dustin Johnson presents an interesting opportunity because a lot of people are going to be looking at him at 12,000. And he's the most expensive golfer. But this pricing is so soft; it's so easy to fit him in. So DraftKings gave out this free roll because Tiger Woods made the cut,
Yeah,
$5,000, and there's 220,000 people in it. So $100 to first place out of 220,000 people. So if you win that, you're probably winning all the money if you put it someplace else. So I guess that was their line of thinking. Anyway, long story short, I think Dustin Johnson probably comes in lower owned, so he presents an opportunity because obviously he's head and shoulders above everybody else in this field as far as world golf ranking and just pedigree. So it depends on how just depends on where he kind of comes in ownership. I think I'll have some of him. I do like Leishman at 10-3 though. He played well last week. Just kind of had a blah Saturday where he shot one over and didn't do much Sunday, but he's still Mark Leishman. I mean, he's still a really good golfer. So obviously Paul Casey too. I mean, Kuchar, that means everybody. I'll probably have all four of them. But for me, I'll probably have more Leishman, I think.
Yeah, I don't mind Casey at all. My guy up here is Kuchar at 10-8. 13 of 14 cuts made here. He's won the tournament. He's 5 top 10s. He knows his course very, very well. He's been hanging with a lot of the golfers the last year or so, but the shorter courses really make me like Kuchar because he can definitely hang there. The question I have for you guys with Dustin Johnson, how much does he care about playing in this tournament? Because this is literally – that's why I'm worried about him. He's there to shake hands, maybe kiss a few babies. He's doing his sponsorship agreement. I'm not saying he's going to miss the cut by any means. He's good enough to probably wake up after falling downstairs and going out there and make the cut at this tournament. But I wouldn't be shocked if it's ugly. But at the same time, if he blitzed the field, no one would be surprised either.
Right. That's the thing. I mean, he could lap this field. If he goes out there and takes it seriously, that's why I think he's a great GPP play, assuming he comes in lower ownership.
Yeah, I think it comes down to hole number one.
Yep.
He gets off to a good start. Dude is like, all right, I might as well play. If he doesn't, he doesn't care.
Yeah, right. I could see him checking out real quick.
I agree with that too.
That's the only concern I have with him when you're paying $12K. But again, you could fit him in easy with what pricing we'll get to here. We got 5 guys in the $9K range: Brian Harman, Webb Simpson, Bucks Boy, Poulter, Cantlay, and Cam Smith. Buck's got a lot of decisions to make here in the 9,000 range.
This range is just sexy.
All the
this is all the Bucks' money right here. Can he have a bigger budget DraftKings? He needs to fit in all 5. Jesse, who do you like here before we get to Bucks and his tough decisions?
Yeah, I'll let him go. But the guy I like most in this region, I think, is Poulter. The price hike is pretty ginormous for him based on the last couple weeks that he's played. But he's playing really well, hitting a lot of fairways, a lot of greens right now. And so he would be my guy in this range.
Okay, Bucks, who you got?
So, hold on. I'm trying to do the math real quick because I'm an idiot.
You can probably fit all 5 of them.
Oh, yeah, you can definitely fit all 5 of them.
You can't fit all 5 of them.
No, you can't. You can't. You can only fit.
But here's what I am going to do. I am going to have Harman, Simpson, Cantlay, Smith, and Chris Stroud rolling deep.
There you go.
I think, honestly, I do like all these guys except for Ian Poulter. I'm not a big Ian Poulter fan. But I love Webb Simpson here. He is from 100 to 150 yards, really solid proximity, and he's been making a ton of putts this year. He lit up Augusta too with this putter, which was nice. So I do like Webb a lot. I love Harman as well. The 2 guys that I typically am all over is Cantlay and Smith. I'm not a huge Cantlay fan this week. I just think that this golf course is. So when we saw him play, was it Riviera, which is typically like a less than driver course on some of those holes, he didn't really play well. I know he's kind of in contention there for a while, but I didn't like the way he was playing. Cam Smith is a guy that I'm obviously going to be playing. Probably, I mean, for me, it'll be underweight compared to the field. It'll probably be overweight. But I just, from his stat perspective, I'm not a huge Cam Smith fan this week. But I do love the way he's been playing, man. The guy's on fire right now. So I think he can definitely be in contention, but I wouldn't have him winning because I think Webb's going to win.
Yeah, I do like Webb a lot in this range, and that's odd for me to say at 9,400. Last time I liked Webb a lot, he missed the cut. So just putting that one out there right now. Cat's out of the bag. Hopefully not the case this week. All these golfers are very qualified and good picks, as you mentioned, but I'm going Webb and Cantlay. I like Cantlay a lot here. He T3'd here last year. He is coming off a missed cut, but man, he's been grinding. That's the first missed cut of his career, I think. And
that
really, really good.
And he missed the cut, so
yep. There you
go. Talk about with the whole miscut winning.
Yep. Yeah, you don't spoil my ending, damn it. But yeah, Webb Simpson and Cantlay are the two I'm kind of focusing up in this 9K range. That is absolutely loaded, as you guys mentioned. Let's get into the 8Ks where you have some more nice decisions. List, Hatton, Kisner, Grillo, Moore, DeChambeau, Nah, Hadwin, and Furyk. Real quick, I'll give a few. Kisner, 87. He's always a guy that tilts me, but you can't deny how he's played at this course and at Pete Dye courses. He has these ones figured out really, really well. So $8,700 for a guy that could easily contend here. He's second place 3 years ago, T11 here last year. And he's actually coming in playing decent golf, Kisner golf, but decent golf. So I don't hate him at 8,700. DeChambeau catches my attention at 83 because he's playing really, really well right now. He has a T4 here. He kind of his accuracy and all these around the green things he can do pretty well. So I don't mind DeChambeau at that price tag. Adam Hadwin at 81, I really, really like at that price tag. That's too cheap for me at this course. Coming in playing basically T25 or better in 5 straight events. That's pretty darn good. You're going to hear the Jim Furyk narrative all week. I probably won't play him at all, but he does play great at this course. And I know, Jesse, we've talked about it. I can't remember if it's a podcast or not, that we forget these old timers can be really sneaky plays on these short courses. So Furyk's the guy to keep in mind, but I won't go there. So a couple guys from me. Bucks, who do you like in the 8K range?
Yeah, there's 4 guys that I really, really like. Emiliano Grillo, Bryson, Kevin Na, and Hadwin. You already touched on Bryson and Hadwin. Both are great plays. Bryson's actually number 1 in my model, top 25 in all proximity categories. If Bryson can putt this week, then I think he is in contention easily. But it all comes down to that putter for him. Hadwin I really, really like. And then Kevin Na stands out because of his proximity in 3 out of the 4 categories, and he's been putting well. So I'll probably have a lot of this range, probably Bryson and Na, and then sprinkle in some Hadwin as well. What about you, Jesse?
Yeah, I'm a big Hadwin fan as well. I think he'll be pretty popular, though, at that price. Hitting a lot of greens, and he played pretty well last week. Nothing spectacular, but he made the cut and hung around a little bit. He was in the lead or close to the lead there after day 1. Another guy who a couple guys you guys didn't mention, Luke List. I know it's not a Balmer's course, but he's hitting a lot of greens in regulation recently. And it's not a terrible price for him, I don't think, in this field. Another guy who probably won't be that popular because people hate him because he's kind of a donkey, but Tyrell, I don't know how you really say his name. I've heard it 1,000 different ways. I'm just going to call him Hatton. I think that's a good price on him as well. And then Grillo as well, 8,600. I'm not a huge fan of the price there, but playing really good golf. Made a bunch of cuts in a row on tour, and he's never played here. But we'll see how it plays out for him. He's a ball striker, so if he can get the putter going, I think he's in contention. Ryan Moore's another guy at 85, who I think has some merit there. So for me, obviously, Hadwin's number 1, and then I'll have quite a bit of probably Luke List. Now, one thing I do want to mention, too, I think we've reached the portion of the PGA DFS season where it's going to become optimal to start making more balanced lineups. If you remember last year, we talked about this quite a bit. If Dustin Johnson checks out, if Paul Casey's hip's still bothering him, Kuchar doesn't show up, Leishman doesn't show up, a balanced lineup is going to do pretty well, I think, this week.
Yeah, there's a lot of these guys you could see winning because if you look at their odds to win, they're like 30 to 40 to 1 type guys all in this range. And those are pretty legit odds for the price tag you're playing on DraftKings. let's drop that into the 7K range where 61 of our 132 golfers reside. 132 golfers this week, 70 make the cut. So we're back to the old cut standard, but 61 of them, almost half, very close. Jesse, give us some of the 7K guys you're looking at.
Yeah, this range, this region, when we get down to the bottom, it pisses me off so bad. But either way, Zach Johnson up top, I think he's a guy who short hitter, good wedge game, just overall pretty straightforward as far as his game goes. He's not going to wow you with anything. And he's made the cut a bunch of years here and only missed the cut twice, 2015, 2011. He didn't play here last year, but either way, moving down, Francisco Molinari. So that, whenever it's a Francisco Molinari week for me, it's really, really super tilting. He's number one on my model, hitting just a lot of greens in regulation. Hits it down the middle. His putter was non-existent last week. He actually played tee to green very well at Augusta. Just obviously couldn't putt, which is about typical for him. I mean, there's really nothing that's not surprising. When you play Francisco Molinari, you don't expect him to drain. You just hope he can two-putt. Jason Kokrak's another guy I think is interesting at 74. Streelman at 73 I think is underpriced. Bunch of made cuts in a row here. Kind of been blah the last 2 years he's been here, but he's just a consistent cut maker at 7,300. I like him quite a bit. Moving down, I think Chris Kirk is interesting at 71. Bud Cauley, who is at, I think he's at 73, is a ridiculous underpriced to me. Finished 9th here last year, and coming off 2 straight top 20s on tour. I don't understand that price at all whatsoever on him. And then there's just a bunch more down. I mean, I could go on and on and on and on and on, which is one reason why I think that maybe potentially there's not a whole lot of chalk down here because it'll be spread out. Potentially, it just kind of depends. But I'm a big fan of Bud this week. I'll probably have him quite a bit. I've already made a few teams, and he made just about every one of them. So then, yeah, Kirk, Bryce Garnett, maybe potentially at 7.
Bucks, what about you?
Yeah, there's fucking 50,000 people down here. So, but I'll go through. Jesse mentioned quite a few of them, but I do like Zach Johnson. Chappie is one of those guys that burned the shit out of me last week, but he did miss the cut, so he's probably going to win this week. But he definitely pops on my model, and his talent level is there. So, and I like the fact that this is a less than driver course for him. So he doesn't have to rely on blasting that driver everywhere, keeping it out of trouble. I really like Charlie Hoffman. Really like James Hahn this week. A guy that I'm kind of I got mixed emotions about, but I got to play him for the brand is Benny On probably. Because if he does go off and win, I'll just shoot myself if I don't have a piece of him. Another guy, Grayson Murray, Chestnut Hadley. Patton Kazir is a guy that I think that this type of course will suit him because, again, he's been getting in a lot of trouble off the tee, and I don't think he has to worry about that a lot here. So I do like Patton Kazir. I'm glad you mentioned Streelman. John Huh is another one that I like. Brendan Harkins I like. And then the last guy in this range that I do like is Rory Sabatini.
Of course.
Yes.
Of course, yeah.
Staying on brand.
Yeah.
All right. I'll pick up the scraps here in the 7K range. I do like ZJ quite a bit. Every week I say he's underpriced. I still in this field think 7,900 might be too cheap for him. He seems like a lot catch game guy for me and still a good GPP guy. Duffner, he's had great success this course. I know he missed the cut at the Masters by a stroke. Still having a really good year at 78. He's too cheap in this tournament to me. You mentioned the course history. Luke Donald, he'll be chalky at 77. I don't want that. I'll go Hoffman at 77. You hit him, Bucks. Coming in, playing amazing at the Masters yet again. And he's played well at this course, 2 top 10s in 8 tries. So I don't mind him at all. Molinari, of course, at 75. Like, why would you not play Francisco Molinari at 75? That's just too easy. The farther down you go, Bud Cauley, that stood out to me right away, Jesse. $7,300 for Bud just seems something else. We're missing something apparently. Streelman at 73, I love him. Nick Watney at 72 still, playing really good golf. Not the best history at this course, but he's coming in playing really, really good golf, just making cut after cut after cut, top 35 or better. At that price, you'll take that. John Huh, that's a guy I've been rolling with at 72, so that'll be my stay on Brown pick. And I'm not going Flores this week. I'm sorry. I'm worried about him this week. But one guy, Jesse, you did not mention, I'm talking about how BS it is. Stuart Sink, $7,000.
Yeah, Stugo. I mean, I don't know. I didn't even notice him, to be honest with you, because I was just pissed off about the rest of these guys in this range. I mean, it's so loaded at the bottom. Like, they could have priced up a lot more guys toward the top. But yeah, I agree. But he's missed the cut last 2 years here, so that's probably why, I guess.
Yeah, he has missed it the last couple of years, but still two-time winner, 14 of 18 cuts. He's playing good.
I'm with you.
Let's go to the 6K range to finish it up. Bucks, who you liking down here?
Yeah, this typically I'm not going to fire down here. But there are a couple guys that I was interested in. Tyrone Van Aswagen, Kelly Craft are two guys I think are good. Von Taylor is a guy that I like, and I think he's mispriced here. From a proximity perspective, he has the game. He hits a lot of fairways. He avoids a lot of bogeys. So I do like him to contend. And at $6,800, he's worth a shot. And then the kind of two guys I'll mention last. One is Chris Stroud at $6,500. Again, I think he's mispriced here. From a stats perspective, he's third from 100 to 125 yards and 25th from 120 to 150 yards. And he's eighth in putting last 24 rounds. So that's a guy that if I do get stupid up top and go true stars and scrubs, he's going to be in my team. And then one guy that I'll sprinkle in because I have to is Billy Hurley III.
Yeah, I thought of you immediately when I saw him down there at that price tag. Jesse, what do you like in the 6K range?
Yeah, the guy that stands out the most to me is Lucas Glover at $6,800.
Yep.
3 straight make cuts here, 32nd, 33rd, 18th the last 3 years. And he's made 4 on tour and missed only 1 in his last year. So it's pretty ridiculous price on him, in my opinion. Another guy who I think is interesting because he's kind of popping on the model because he's hitting a lot of greens again and he's hitting a lot of fairways. Michael Thompson, of course, history is trash. 3 straight missed cuts here. But he's coming off 2 straight top 25s on tour. The thing is I was looking at his history, and last year it was kind of the same coming in here and he missed the cut. So I don't know if it's just he doesn't like this golf course or something. I'm not real sure, but he's just an interesting kind of play at 6,900. And then I'll stay on brand with KJ Choi at 6,600. He's a short knocker. He did make the cut at Corrales, finished 5th, and then also at the AT&T Pebble Beach. So be rooting for him this week for my own personal reasons as well.
Yeah, that's a good one for Choi because he fits this mold perfectly. I'm looking at Chad Campbell at 6,900 in this range. Van Aswagen is one of my favorite ones. You hit on him, Bucks at 69. Lucas Glover at 68, agree completely there. Von Taylor at $68. I was looking at that too, and he does seem way mispriced to me in this range. Besides the way he's playing in general, he's played really well here. So I do like that a lot at 6,800. And then if for some reason you have to go really, really deep, and I don't want to, but if you need to, a guy I'll play a lot as we get away from the West Coast is Scott Brown at $6,600. 4 or 5 cuts here, including a T5. And he's made 3 of his last 5 cuts on tour. So at $6,600, basically bottom of the basement pricing, I'll give him a look. All right, gentlemen, that wraps up the DraftKings pricing. Let's do our punts, busts, core, winners, the works. Bucks, who are your punt plays for the week?
Punt plays for the week, definitely going to be Stroud and Von Taylor.
I like it. What about you, Jesse?
Yeah, I mean, Lucas Glover, I don't know if he's a punt, but I would include him, I guess, at 6,800. And then Michael Thompson, I think, is the punt.
All right. My punts are Lucas Glover and Vaughn Taylor because they're sub 7K. Bucks, who's your bust of the week?
I mean, outside of DJ, it's going to be Leishman.
I can dig that. What about you, Jesse?
Man, I don't know. I think it'll be Cam Smith.
Oh no! Oh no! Outside of DJ, I'm definitely there on the DJ train. I'm going Ian Poulter. He has played really well here, but I think he's about burned out. That guy had to give everything just to get into the Masters. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a letdown week from Poulter in this one. Who's your core, Bucks?
It's definitely going to be Simpson. Probably Simpson and Nah, and then I'll build around that probably.
Alrighty then. What about you, Jesse?
It pains me to say it, but it's just hard for me to Molinari and Hadwin.
It rolls right off the tongue. I don't know how it's hard to say.
It's going to be such a tilting week for me. Molinari, Hadwin.
You better not be watching.
Go get some spaghetti and meatballs and celebrate.
You guys, I may not be on the pod next week. Molinari, Hadwin, and I like List. I'm a List fan this week. I'm going to throw him in there as well.
My core this week is Cantlay, Molinari, and Bud Cauley. That'll be my core three. All right, the moment of truth. Bucks, who do you have winning this bad boy?
Webb, Simpson.
I don't hate it this week. I really don't.
I like it.
I can dig it. What about you, Jesse?
So Webb's 25-1.
Book
it. Yeah. Winner this week will be Adam Hadwin, 33-1.
Oh, I do like that too.
I like that too. My winner this week will be Patrick Cantlay,
35-1.
I do like that. What's Chappell?
Chaps is 50.
After last week, he's going to be so low owned.
Yep.
Miscut narrative.
Probably for miscut
narratives there. If we do that, one.
There's some good ones. Remember, 3 of the last 5 winners missed the cut.
That's right.
What about Molinari, Jesse? Just out of curiosity, so you can celebrate your DraftKings winnings.
He's 50 as well.
Yeah. All right. Any final words, gentlemen, as we get ready for the RBC this weekend? It's going to be quite the letdown, but I will say DraftKings brought the tournaments out. They have a handful of 100K winner tournaments, some good stuff out there.
Yeah, there's definitely some good tournaments. I totally agree with that. They're trying to drag the Masters, the one-time Masters players into it. So hopefully everything fills up. But like I said before, I think balanced lineups wins the day this week.
Well, I think they noted it last week. Like they were like, we can't believe that these contests filled that fast, and every other person on the planet was like, how do you not understand that they're going to fill that fast?
I forgot about that. With everything that went on, yes.
And that's every week, though. Like
I was going to say, it's happening every week they fill so fast. I don't know what they're afraid. Are they afraid of overlay that much?
But I just don't understand how you don't make like a dynamic tool, like a model that like allows it to grow as the entrants grow.
They can't.
Like, that doesn't seem that hard.
It's by law. You can't do that by law. They have to set the guarantee. I think eventually that would be the way to go, is to let it continue to grow. Say, we'll guarantee $5 million for the Millie Maker, and if it gets above $5 million, it gets above $5 million, we'll adjust the pay structure.
Well,
but they can't.
That makes sense, but it sucks.
I agree. They totally dropped the ball on that. But then again, they also said that Tiger doesn't affect any contests. They have data. On that.
Yeah, the data they have was on the Goonies.
From 2015, I don't understand it.
Yeah, geniuses. All right, gentlemen, I'm going to wrap it up. Check out Bucks on Twitter at BPSnow11. Jesse is at DFS Golf Gods. I'm at BDantric. And check out the podcast at Always Press DFS. This was your 2018 RBC Heritage Preview. Catch you guys next week.
All right, guys. Have a good one.